greet you. Good morning. Can we do the Freddie Mercury? I do the Elvis.
Given the advice yesterday to hold it steady like this, but I think you can't hear me, right? Because your sound.
What you say?
Test. Test. I have the feeling you're prepared for a real show here. Hello, everybody. Time is right. We can start. Yeah? Okay. I just give a short intro. Hi. I'm Sarah. I work for Hamburg Music, which the name already suggests. We are based in Hamburg, and we are an association. Taking care of the interests for all music businesses located in Hamburg. So we have a strong focus on lobbying, all that export things. But despite that, we also have a strong focus on education. And this is what I'm here to talk about today, because our panel about keeping and gaining professionals for the music industry is a very big issue after all the crisis we had. So I talked to Hannes here beside me, my Austrian friend, and we were thinking about discussing this with you. And we also want to show you what we are up to these days, what we can offer to keep the professionals in the business, but we really would like to hear your thoughts afterwards. You are working all in the business, so what would be your wishes? What would be the things you like to have, and the things you need that keep you in this industry? Yes, and I think we wanted to start with our programs, like to talk a little bit about them. And should I start? Like what we do in Hamburg and in Germany? Because maybe some of you have heard of it already. We have like for 10 years now, an education program, and it's called Music Business Summer School. It always takes part 6 days up front of Reeperbahn Festival. So we have 6 days of training, and then you can also join the Reeperbahn Festival if you still can. And we have 3 schools. One focuses on music publishing, one on live entertainment, and one on recorded music, so the label side. And yeah, this year it's like always we have around 60 people in Hamburg. Also through the Corona crisis, we managed to have the people all on site, and this is like a program where a lot of people, if you think about 10 years, and we have this program now for 10 years, we have a large community already, and we call it our alumni network. What we experienced is that this learning together for a couple of days, spending together some time, and then afterwards always get the people back together for networkings on other conferences like Waves Vienna, maybe CO Pop, just, keep the infos flowing and always try to get the group back together. This is like a model we've been working on for 10 years now. And we have the feeling that this is working very well so far to give the people what they need in the business, to gain some more knowledge, or to maybe look for another job within the industry, and to educate themselves for that. And during Corona, we had the idea that we need not just this program, so we have this alumni network, but still people need more input on very pressing topics that arise from crisis like Corona. So we started with this alumni program. In the beginning, it was just for alumni, but then we realized, no, this is something that could be working for all other people in the business as well. So we started this program, Inspiration Information, and it's more like online workshops we offer, and we can still offer them for free. This is like running throughout the year, and still we try to connect with conferences, so we can have inputs there. You could hear another input today from this program. It's about data later on. And to give the people, it's a German-speaking offer, that's what I forgot, to give the people the opportunity to connect in the first place, but also to educate themselves from wherever they are in any German-speaking country. So it's Austria and Switzerland as well, of course. And what my colleagues told me to show you, although it's not ready yet, I think they will launch the website at Reeperbahn Festival, is a new program. It's called Music Business Careers, where we try to bring all info together and, I don't know, show the industry or give the industry a place where they can come together as well, like adverting their jobs and job offers, or even, you know, for people not even working in the industry, to give them an overview of what's going on there. What kind of jobs do we have? Where do I start? To who can I speak? Like building up a network, all this stuff. And to get people, this is more the gaining part. So we want to get people into the industry and show them how great this industry is. But this will be launched to Reeperbahn Festival. And I would just advise you to have an eye on this, because we are launching it from Hamburg now. And of course, it's with a strong focus on Hamburg on the first place, but still these things like jobs and stuff, this will be for the whole German-speaking area. So this would be like the things we do at the moment. So I hand over to you, Hannes. If you have any questions so far.
You've also seen all the slides that I have prepared and all the things that we are doing. But jokes aside, my name is Hannes Schürz. I was just looking who I am. Yeah, I am. For more than 20 years, I've been running a company called Ink Music. That's the one stated here. But also, since I've been in the business for quite some time, I hold seats in several organizations, and I probably should call myself something like an advocate for the educational cause, having started a couple of initiatives to create platforms where there is at least some sort of education for music business matters here in Austria, because technically there's no official one, no big one. There's nothing serious on university level, for instance. There have been initiatives here and there and smaller courses here and there, but nothing too much, so we're far behind. In general, the music industry in Austria is a rather thin layer, I'd say. So there aren't too many jobs. Many of the people working in the Austrian industry are either working something else on the side, and many jobs are pretty much single-person unities, single-person companies that cannot really afford to have employees, for instance. Quite recently, though, the last decade, there's been quite a nice and refreshing development in the scene, particularly in the fields of managements, agencies, and also labels. We're a bit slow on the publishing side, but everything else is slowly coming to place where you'd say, okay, there's something like a music business economy at least. And I would suggest that this also lays in the fact that there have been more of these educational initiatives, even though they are not as far as I said. But for instance, I've helped starting a Musikwirtschaftslehrgang, a music business course in 2015. That's been paused when the pandemic hit, because similar to the Music Business Summer School in Hamburg, this is sort of a crash course that went over 7 weekends, quite intense, some 100 units where you could learn about the principles of what copyright is, about a label, about publishers, live business, so across the field pretty much. And the whole idea was getting people together, networking, of course, a lot, and of course giving them basic education. And I myself found a lot of people in there that gave them a head start to work in our company. But also we had experiences where people that for a long time worked at, say, Sony Music learned more about the live business and the other way around. So that was quite refreshing and a very positive thing. We had to stop it during the pandemic because we felt we lack of the network experience by that. And currently there's a plan to revive that in early 2024 with the Vienna University of Music here, the world famous institute that doesn't do anything about music business but builds a lot of really excellent musicians. So we're cooperating with them. And there's not much to be honest. So as I said, I'm sitting in a lot of different institutions, and a lot of people in those institutions are always willing to help, but someone's got to do the job. Then I'm happy that Nuri here has always been a long-term ally in the case and is helping with the music business course in the future too. So we're trying to keep up. That's pretty much the educational part.
Exactly. So, from the educational side, I mean, this is like my work of focus I have right now. And of course, Hannes and I were discussing yesterday how we could merge all our ideas to bring it together in a good way for German and Austrian people working in the business, like exchange programs, etc. There's really, I think we see a lot of potential there, but still we don't have a clear plan of what could come. And I don't know, maybe we could open the round already to discuss it with you, what you could imagine or what you would wish for.
So basically the task for you guys would be that we learn more about the actual problems on your end of the table. What we've discussed is we have very different problems in the German market and in the Austrian market, but somehow they seem to be two sides of the same plate. So Germany is, correct me if I'm wrong, but the lack of people streaming into the music industry, especially the qualification of those people. And in Austria, like I explained earlier, is pretty much the lack of jobs in general. So there's hardly an industry. Therefore, if you try to apply for a job, there aren't many jobs that you could potentially have. So you have to create your own job. That's what I did 20 years ago, but by now we should be a step further. So this is actually two very different problems, both coming together at the educational end. We need to have more qualified people that know much more about the industry. I think the easier task would be how can we make that easier? How can we, especially also given the fact that Germany, Switzerland, Austria, the German language countries are pretty much, it's not a single market, but a very united market already. Does that make anything easier, and how is that compared to maybe your market if you live outside that area? And what could
yeah, that would be nice to.
that actually would be interesting.
We can only
to hear,
learn.
Yeah. All right. So welcome. Yes.
Thank you very much. Hello there. Maybe I'm obviously English, British, and I'm dual-based UK and Austria. Many of you will know me from my work running 2 agencies for years, music consultant, blah, blah, blah. But I come from the late 70s. So we had exactly this situation whereby in the 80s in particular, when LIPA, Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts, which was started, of course, by Paul McCartney, originally was mainly based on performance and technology, etc., but then moved into music business. That also happened across the music business courses within the UK at various universities and colleges. And the problem that happened was that a lot of theoretical music business was taught, and we were having people coming out of those courses thinking that they knew exactly what to do within the music business. Now, anybody who knows, particularly from the 70s, the music business was very much the Wild West, and still is in many situations. So what attracted me to coming to talk to you guys today, looking at the insert in the program, was talking about bringing in specialists or people who have real world experience. I mean, people who have been managers, agents, etc., producers, but who haven't necessarily had formal training, because the realities are very different. And what happened over time, and it's in a much better situation now in the UK, but it needs more work, is that the more you can bring in sometimes quite cynical professionals to come in and educate, but in reality just talk about themselves and give real world and real life experiences. That's really, really important. And my feeling, having been in Austria for around 13 years, I'm split between the two, as most people know, is that it is improving, but what you have is a situation whereby people who are coming out of colleges and universities or SME or whatever still think that they know what's happening in the real world, and they get a real big shock when they're actually out there. So my question is, how do you feel things are evolving in bringing in fairly sometimes cynical professionals to talk to your students, and also within the culture within the educational system? Because sometimes there's some resistance from those that are teaching theoretical as to actually taking on real world experience, because they sometimes feel a little challenged. There you go.
Thank you. I might just take that because it very much reminds me of the discussions that we had. So when I talk about the music business courses, was set up with the University of Applied Sciences in Kufstein and Vienna Music University. And we had some, say, university feeling to it because it kept the title of the university in the program. And they constantly complain about being not enough university stuff in there, you know, too few theory, because we, I would suggest, had very much a program leaning towards your idea. So almost only bringing in experienced people that you can look up to, that mostly gave some sort of pep talk, but not as much theory and information that they potentially could have done. And I felt that we had quite a nice mix of those two worlds. Of course, you can always do better, and especially more. But the general feeling from, and the feedback also from the people that went out of this course was especially that. So I didn't know that. So people that were perfectly fine with their copyright knowledge, but didn't have a clue about how the world actually functions out there, right? So I think you're absolutely right, but it's incredibly difficult, especially once you try to cross borders where the industry might be a bit different, where you cross genres, because of course copyright is the same in theory in every, at least mainland European country, pretty much the same. The rules are very similar to each other, but how you market and how you live, say, a classical music piece and work and orchestra compared to a heavy metal band might be a bit different. And of course, therefore, very different experiences are also needed to be taught. So I think that's challenging, because it would ask for many more of these courses that are becoming ever more specialized in certain fields. You would promote a hip-hop record probably slightly different to a German language Schlager record. So, well, maybe not. It becomes the same. Yeah, it's right. Sorry, yeah, it's the same. Raf Kamara is Schlager now. Hi, Raf. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering what I could add, but I mean, if we are looking for speakers for our programs, it's always that we, of course, we ask our people, like, who could you recommend, who's good in this field? It's sometimes a specific knowledge we are looking for, but also a broad knowledge. So you have those small labels, big labels, all that stuff. So we are always looking for persons who can cover everything. When at its best, that would be the best. But still, it's always people working in the field, and sometimes they are younger, sometimes they are very much older, and I think the mix is really the big, the positive side of it. So, and if they hear some sessions about some topics, I think the most important thing is that they can also, you know, afterwards just get into a direct talk and ask some direct personal questions. But for instance, our courses are not recorded, all that stuff, so it's always like a bit of like off the record. So you can talk freely, and maybe that's something that's important too.
But I think to take that as an input too, and combine it with what we spoke about yesterday in our preparation talk, more is important. So what we spoke about was particularly more networking between Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, because there are hardly any direct bridges from Vienna to Berlin to Hamburg to Cologne. So some people know some people, but we could do much more and profit on both ends probably, also in terms of this. So we have the experience, of course, the Austrian bands are always looking to the bigger country, the bigger market, the bigger labels, the bigger money in Germany. However, it's equally difficult for German bands to break through in Austria, and it can be quite an important market for several reasons. And same goes with Switzerland. So learning not only means learning the theory, but really learning to know how that special market works, how those people function, how the organizations in the country work, what the market is like. So I know many very underestimated markets in different fields. I spent some time in Estonia, lived there for quite a while, which is a tiny country that you wouldn't even find on the map, most likely. But they have an incredibly lively songwriting scene where they are highly professional in terms of having songwriting camps and stuff. Things that aren't that common in places like Austria, for instance. So they're far ahead in that particular field, while on other ends, they are just a really small country. So in terms of the live industry, for instance, that's a big disadvantage, obviously. So things you need to learn, even if it's just to realize how different those markets are, not necessarily whether you want to go there. And we could and should start to keep this market closer together by learning more about each other. Alexander, you seem to have a question. Ah ja, verstehe. Hi, it's me. All right, so who's actually working as an employee in the music industry? A few people. Who's running his own company? See the problem? Who of you has employees? Who has more than one? Okay, more than 3? Okay, how many? Wow, okay. Huge. But I mean, you see the point, right? So also we see that when we talk to organizations on the upper level, ministries of culture and whatsoever, especially we learned in Austria, we learned that through the pandemic, that they don't really understand how this works. And thanks to the fact that it's incredibly fractured, there are so many little dots and pieces in the industry, it's incredibly hard to actually communicate well about the needs of the industry on higher levels, be it about education, fundings, whatever. So that's a big issue we have to come by, and also I think even, so there were quite some initiatives here in Austria to say formulate one voice of the industry so we can speak to politics about it, for instance. How's that in Germany, by the way?
Of course, they try to set it up, and I think it's more like the live part is doing it for themselves. Then you have the publishing side and the label side, so they are not like they should.
On an educational level?
Yeah, that's still pretty fractured too. It's not like they're going. Of course, I mean we work with those associations together, and if we are in need, they form up because we work for this music business summer school. We have associations like VUT for the recorded side, and DMV for the publishing side, and BDKV for the live entertainment side. So these are the huge associations you need to work with, and of course there are big supporters. And this is like, of course we are in a good situation right now. We still get the funding for all those programs, because to be honest, this is something that is important too, if you think about education and offering it for small and medium-sized companies, and this is not like we can't afford it by ourselves. Like what kind of costs would come up? We need to pay the speakers, the location, all that stuff around it. So funding is a pretty big topic, and yeah, that is something we need to talk about between Austria, Switzerland, and Germany as well. How we could do this all together, because now for Germany it works, but still we can't be sure if it's going to be working for the next 5 years. So where's the perspective on that?
I'd like to raise the question to you from the opposite end, so to speak. So, how big's the money topic for you? So, I doubt that for anyone money will be the reason to get into the industry. Yeah, let's not be cynical about it. But is money an argument to keep you in the industry? Does it manage to? Or do you avoid becoming a part of the industry because it's lacking of money?
I think, Hannes, one thing to say is in COVID in particular, in terms of the support industries within the music industry, a lot of people left the industry because they had to.
Exactly.
So that's a big point. Techs, stage managers, sound engineers, lighting, many of them, in order to survive, had to leave to do other jobs. So we're now in some weird situation since COVID, where there is massive shortages across the whole of the industry, across Europe and worldwide. And so it's important to try and attract from the technical side as well as many people as possible through education. Really important.
And
So
then again, sorry.
Money is important fundamentally.
Of course, yeah.
And then again, what are you able to pay for education? So this is a big discussion as well, because of course I want education to be free, but it's not working. Yeah, but this is a question to you as well. I mean, we have a 6 days program, and now through funding we could offer it for 450 euros, which is really, really low.
And still a lot of money for many.
Of course, yeah.
That's the experience we
Yeah,
had
totally.
in that course. So at the university, it was really difficult to argue, okay, this 7-week course is 2,000 euros, and for many people it was just too expensive. So we tried to offer as many fundings as possible for the people joining the course. On the other hand, the university constantly complained about it being so cheap because they were used to those courses being priced at 5-fold that level, 7, 8, 10,000 if it's for, I don't know, real estate courses or something. So we have to realize and also consider that we are a pretty poor industry in terms of what we can offer and how much we can offer. But I still believe that education and networking is pretty much the only way or the first way out of it. Don't let me have the depressive last word.
No.
I think that I can agree with that, and I wanted to refer to something that you said right at the beginning, Hannes, because I definitely agree with the fact that the thing that might scare a lot of professionals, young professionals, people looking for their first jobs is the lack of jobs in the music industry. But I think it creates an interesting paradox, at least here in Austria, where there aren't enough jobs, but on the other hand, whenever a company opens a job or a job position, it's super hard to find the right well-qualified person for it, because I see quite a lot of companies, and I'm a prime example of that, sourcing talent from elsewhere just because the talent is not available here, especially in certain highly professional and highly specialized fields, like for example marketing. I find there are little to none marketing specialists who also specialize within the music industry. And for me as an employer, and for people who actually brought me to the country, because I'm one of these professionals who have been brought to Austria by another company looking for somebody that does marketing and music industry at the same time. So of course that's the trend here, that we have to bring talent from elsewhere just because it is not available here in Austria or here in the German-speaking room, so to speak, because we're also open to Germany, of course. So I don't know. To me, what would be interesting is how can we attract this kind of talent from here, from Austria, from Germany, and how can we somehow motivate them to specialize them in the music industry, to see this industry as the one where they can succeed and where maybe they can build their careers, because that's just the decision that these people are not meeting right at the beginning when they're starting out. And that's what creates this weird paradox that we can't hire people because they are not qualified, and then we don't have jobs in the music industry. It's weird, right? So I would love to hear your thoughts about that.
So we're running out of time, but a quick one. So the experience is I was training on the job. So I built my company from scratch 20 years ago, and now we are 5 people. We have been 10 when we had live. Now we are 5 as a label and publisher, and that's huge in Austria, but it's tiny in perspective, right? So training on the job is one answer, but we should get to a point where this becomes a competitive field where people actually are so qualified that they can look after different jobs and so forth. And this is a point we will get to. So we shouldn't leave with just questions, trying to answer that in a very short while. We're this close to get extra funding for the Austrian Music Fund, and that for the first time would include something very important that could eventually change that, but I'm not allowed to talk about it too much yet. All right, okay. So we have that off camera, that talk. Thanks.
And if you have any questions left, yeah, just hit us up. We are here. Thank you so much.